Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to scrape a list of Google Maps businesses and find their contact information from decision makers like owners, founders, CEOs of these businesses. Now, the best use case for this particular clay flow or playbook is if you don't have a big presence on LinkedIn. So if your customers are on Google Maps, but they're not on LinkedIn, then this is for you. So the two tools that we'll be needing here are clay.com and a Google Maps scraper known as Serper. So I'm going to show you what the table looks like. Just pop into Serper really quickly and just walk through the process and step by step. So the first thing we'll have here is 1,500 rows. I put together the 1,500 biggest cities in the United States. And this column here is for keywords. So this is, in this case, looking for HVAC companies, but this can be reapplied for any sort of business that you might want to do outreach to, be it roofing businesses, landscaping businesses, retail businesses, literally anything that's on Google Maps. You can search for it. You can put it into this list. So then we'll be going to the Serper component. And so this is what Serper looks like. It's a good tool. It's pretty inexpensive. You'll just need to set up your billing and get your API key. Once you do that, come back into Clay, create a column. So in this particular case, right, this is our endpoint, google.serper.dev/places. And the body is going to be for this question. We have the keyword, and for the location, we have our place. And so you want to include your API key as always, and then you'll run the column. So you'll see here page 1, page 2, and beyond. This is basically paginating the different searches. So this entire column is page 1 for New York. This row is page 1 for LA, so on and so forth, right? The little wrinkle that you'll need to include in this particular workflow is write to table. So we're going to be writing all of our search results to a new table. And the reason why that's important is because if you look at the search here, you'll see we have 10 different places. So if you don't have all 10 of these places in their own row, you're not going to be able to analyze them with any sort of accuracy. So we'll break them down, write them to their own row, and that'll allow us a lot more flexibility and control over our data enrichments and manipulations down the line. So you'll want to map that out for as many pages as you like. I've done 5 pages in this particular case, and you want to write it to the next table. So now we're in our next table. I've already done a little bit of filtering here, but first thing you want to make sure you're doing is make sure you're deduplicating. I like to just do it off of the domain, makes it super simple. I've mapped some of our data here, and you can see, right, all of these are HVAC. You get their company name and where they're actually located. So the big filter that I made for this account was using the rating count as a minimum qualification, right? A lot of these businesses, they don't have a huge online presence, so it's hard to determine, is this a real business, is this not? In this case, using the number of ratings as a minimum qualifier really allows you to basically get rid of anybody who's not a real business or smaller than what you'd want to actually be reaching out to. So in this case, the number is 40. So assuming you have 40 ratings and you're an HVAC business, you're potentially viable. So now what you want to do is find the relevant people at those businesses. So there's a very simple shortcut, easy way to do this, and that's through this enrichment called snav.io. And so this is just a basic enrichment in Clay. I'm even using their managed account. And so you set it up, you map the domain, and you can find all of their work in their generic emails. You can map that however you want to make it most relevant for you in your specific use case. It's going to use a fixed number of credits for each poll. You can just find as much data as possible in this particular case, right? So we'll look at this account and we'll see, okay, they found 3 different emails. So we'll look at this one. Okay, Tyler Word is the email for here, and it's telling us he's the owner operator of First Response AC and Heating. That's cool. And then we have, okay, an office email and then an accounting email. So depending on your campaign strategy and how aggressive you want to be, first and foremost, make sure you're validating all of these email addresses. If it's an invalid, I would never reach out to it. But because you're reaching out to these companies, there's less data available publicly. Oftentimes, an info at domain email address will be monitored by the business owner. So you might want to include that. I'm not suggesting you do explicitly, but as an option, might be something worth considering. So assuming all of these are validated, you're good to go. You can push those into a campaign and launch it. Now, assume you don't want to use Clay credits, assume you don't want to use snav.io, and you want to try using a Clayagent prompt. So a Clayagent prompt, if you're unfamiliar, is a prompt that will then go do web research for you based on Clay's built-in tool. So in this case, I actually came up with one that will go and find the CEOs, the founders, and the leaders of a company to do outreach to. So I'm going to show you what that prompt looks like. And so you're going to want to update and manipulate these for your own use case. Again, like all of this is specific to this business, but can be applied to any business if you're using Google Maps. So in this case, your goal is to find the founder or owner of this company and to find this information. And I give it a handful of steps. So in this case, it's like you want to visit the company website, look for the About Us page, the Our Team, the leadership page. You want to search for things like founder, owner, CEO, president, managing director, search company history sections, look for press releases, and that 5-6 steps of research should ideally come up with a result. Now, in this particular case, we see that we actually have gotten one, we got one person, in this case, William Word. So that is positive, the company owner. He's likely going to be the company owner in this case. And then we also found that Tyler Word is also another reliable source as an owner. And so that source is from the BBB business profile, which is pretty credible in this case, right? So you'll notice that our individual research found the same name that the snav.io did. Now what you'll want to do is go and find their email address. You can use a waterfall enrichment to get that email, or you can use a tool called kit.ai. It will find those email addresses using just your first name, last name, and the domain, and it does it extremely cheap. So that'll be a way to find that email address. And again, you want to validate that too. But this is pretty simply it. You go from Google Maps search at scale, you find all those relevant companies, you make sure that they're qualified, and then you find the relevant people at those companies. You enrich that data for emails, you validate the data, and you send the campaign to the valid emails. That's the flow across the board for almost every single campaign you should be running, whether it's a Google Maps campaign, a LinkedIn campaign, any kind of data source campaign. Company, person, send. Simple as that. Now, I hope you found some value in today's video. If you did, comment some questions, what you thought about it below. Otherwise, feel free to book in a call with me. On that call, we can walk through your use case and build a table exactly like this and see if it makes sense to work together on a long-term basis. Now, that's it for this video. I will talk to you the next one. Talk to you then. Peace.